an aspiring leader wondering when you'll finally reach the success you want? If so, watch this episode for inspiration and/or a reality check. So the gist of this episode is pretty simple. It is celebrate small wins. Happy third anniversary to me. Nobody else close to me in my life, even sort of my cheerleading team of strategic partners and friends who I do weekly Zooms with, know that I'm celebrating this special thing. You've got to make it special for yourself, because for the most part, until you become successful, you're not going to have much of a cheerleading team. You need to be your own cheerleader, especially if you're starting yourself. For your core team, you need to be your mutual cheerleaders, because nobody else is going to do it for you until you're virtually already successful. Nobody knows about you, nobody cares about you, nobody thinks about you and your venture. That's the reality check. This is what Seth Godin called the dip in his book with the same title. It's that vast death valley of places where most entrepreneurs, where most people in anything drop out of the possibility of success. It's that gulf, that moat, that cavern, which makes success something special. So if anything I say today is of value, interest, or gives you some ideas, motivates you, even makes you decide that this isn't the entrepreneurial journey, that isn't for you, then that will actually have helped you. But anything about this episode, including those screw-ups and why I don't care they happened, helps you, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks. So essentially what this comes down to is people who are unsuccessful or achieved success in an exceptionally easy way, which happens. But the reason you see it on the news, the reason you see it covered in the media, is because it is so damn rare. And so both of those groups of people, or people who experience success either easily or never achieve success, believe it's all about luck. Must be luck. Or if they achieve it, talent, because after all, it's only because I'm so amazing that it happened. Well, neither of those is entirely true or entirely wrong, but that's the way unsuccessful people, or people who had success with very little effort, which are very, very rare, perceive this. Neither of those groups is likely to believe that success is almost always a long, lonely, desolate road that continues on, well beyond what you think you can stand, until you achieve said success. Even then, success is still most often an accumulation, a trickle of small wins over and over, which is why I'm celebrating my third anniversary, 122nd day of doing videos in a row, which, even if this were a leap year, would be 1/3 the way through the year. In hindsight, success looks obvious. When you're living it day to day, it doesn't. As I said, it tends to be small wins, as again, Jim Collins talks about in Beyond Entrepreneurship 2.0. He talks about all these milestones of success and these sort of tipping points where, yes, this is where we became successful, is for the most part business and success mythology. Looks good on TV. Looks good on that 2-minute montage, which might represent a decade or more of work, but that's not the reality. The reality tends to be, less sexy, which is why it makes a good movie after the fact. So all others who are on their way to success, who didn't get the effortless success or decide to quit soon, which is the majority, realize that it's mostly a marathon, and that if you don't have the endurance to continue the marathon, you won't succeed. That's why the rare few do. It's not that anybody can't succeed. It's most people choose to give up before they succeed. And that's probably the main key thing, the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is an irrational amount of endurance, especially in the face of adversity. So this is why it's so important to celebrate the small wins. You're probably going to do it solo, but that's totally okay. That's the way, that is the rule, not the exception. The exception is what you see in the movies, right? So there's not, by the way, there's nothing wrong, and this is a good thing to think about. If you are striving for your own success, starting your own company, starting something really challenging, there's nothing wrong with working for somebody who had the endurance to succeed and who continues to, right? Successful companies, if you work for a boss, I'll tell you, being an employee is so much easier than being a founder or an executive director. You just go in every day, you do your work, and as long as it doesn't basically suck, as long as you achieve the standard level of acceptable performance for your company, you get paid for every hour you're there, and then you go home, you don't worry about anything. It's so much easier. So there's nothing wrong with doing that. Just be mindful that that's the people who own the company were the people who had the endurance. So if that's what you want to be, it wasn't easy for them. It's not easy for anybody except a few freaks of nature, and they are very, very rare, and most of them still took years to succeed. We just never hear about that part. Okay? So essentially what you have, if you want to endure, if you want to be somebody who is that person, that founder, that executive director, you basically have three choices to make every single day: quit, pivot, or endure. If you want to do what you're doing, endure or pivot are your two only viable choices. Now, pivot just means to change directions after a lot of feedback, like a lot of feedback. Days, weeks, months, or years tell you that what you're doing isn't working and you need to change it up. It's a very tricky balance between quitting too soon and quitting too late, and it's not an easy thing to find. I quit, or more accurately, pivoted far later than I should have out of product development for the time being. So the latter, that is to endure, to quit is the easiest. The second, to pivot, is challenging. And the third is the hardest but most rewarding. That is to endure in something that you have reason to believe that you've had your small successes. You see you're making progress even if nobody else does. That is the most challenging thing, because most people, even your family, there's a saying that I've now heard coming from both Christianity and Islam, which is basically the prophet is not recognized in his own home. So suck it up. That's the reality. Some more reality check there. So really what it comes down to is all choices you make, whether you quit and work for somebody else, endure, or pivot, all these choices are valid. They simply produce different results, and you need to make the choice that's right for you. If you're going to stay with it, small, silly, crazy wins and celebrations, which are often going to be solo, is one of the best ways to keep going, because I feel excited just by doing this episode. Nobody else even knows about it except whomever watches this episode. So once you've made that choice, get back on that hill and climb it every day. This has been Crush-It Club 122, How to Endure Until Success. My name is Tim B. Green. Bye for now.